Hey everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the Psychic Wives. I'm Kathy Rumsey.
I'm Ginger Hendry.
I'm Geri Carabin.
I'm Genevieve Hackett.
We're all here. Genevieve is here as our guest wife, and we're going to be talking about a pretty interesting subject this week. Do I just refer to it as the Jinn, or
The
is
Jinn,
there
yep.
does it fall under like a category of things, like other beings,
Like
or
supernatural creature or spirit or being.
okay?
Yeah.
So this all started because of an experience Ginger had. So Ginger, why don't you start and tell them what happened?
Yeah, I had a client call and wanted to do an animal communication reading and was telling me she wanted me to talk to her cats, and the cats had been missing. So they were in the house and then she couldn't find them. They sometimes do get out, but they come back. And this went on for a few days. She checked every nook and cranny, every closet in the house. Couldn't find them, and then asked one of her kids does do some intuitive work, like for family, and asked that child, and they said the cats are in a closet. And she said, no, I've already checked. I've checked. This is like the third day. I've checked every single closet. There's no way, there's nothing up above or, whatever. And they said, go back and look at the closet. So in the meantime, she did. She went back again for the third day because she was obviously very upset. She opened a closet that she had been in multiple times over the few days, and there were the cats sitting on the floor. No evidence of anybody having an accident in there, going to the bathroom, or there was no way for them to get out. They hadn't, bothered
Was
her.
it like a hole in the ceiling or
There was nothing. So she was totally flustered, and she called one of her children back, and they said that their spouse, who is a Muslim, who I believe was from Egypt, knew the Jinn, mentioned the Jinn. The Jinn had taken the cats. Sometimes they come, they visit, they play with the animals. Sometimes they're nice, sometimes they're not nice, whatever. But she had never heard of that before. And then they asked, do you have anything in that closet where you found the cats that would be a gold or silver, silverware or jewelry? And she said, I did. I had place settings for her china. And so anyway, I was just beside myself because she said, I know that they weren't there. One is a very loud talker and talks all the time. So she said, if they were trapped in there, it would have hurt. But I looked in that like half dozen times or more over the 3 days. So I was just fascinated, never heard the term, reached out to Kathy and Geri, and then to Jen, and Jen
So
had.
what did you, I can't remember what the Jinn comes and takes them and plays with them and brings them back? Or
Well, that's what we think happened in this case. I did not know.
Yeah.
That just blew my mind because I mean, I believe her. There's no way for the cats to get out. If a cat was trapped in there, you would hear that.
Right.
Or you would, she said it was a small closet. It wasn't like a big walk-in, just a small closet. And
Smell it at least after a few days. Yeah.
yeah.
So
And
what do you know about them, Jen?
oh yeah, good.
Yeah.
I learned about them when I was studying Islamic belief a little bit. I'm not a professional or anything, but I do that for fun. And I know that the Islamic belief is that Allah created the jinn out of like smokeless fires, scorching hot smokeless fire. And so the belief is that they exist alongside us, but in a different realm or a different dimension. So they're similar to us in that they have free will, they can make choices, what have you. But they are more powerful supernaturally, if you will. So they you know, maybe they're just more aware of it. I don't know. I know they have shape-shifting capabilities. They are able to go back and forth between the realms or the dimensions. They can fly, they can teleport, they can do all the things we wish we could do. And you know, some of them, there are some lore that they can grant wishes. So they're you know, known to interact with humans, giving, you know, like the genie, that kind of thing.
Right.
Some of them are nice, some of them are not, some of them are mischievous.
So would they have taken these cats out of the closet somewhere, played with them, brought them back?
It's possible they allowed the cats to
Got it.
come and play with them, because
Got it.
cats, animals never got the memo that what we do is not okay. So they still, you know, they don't have the limits that we have. So it's possible they just went. You know, cats
Yeah.
are very nosy, as we know.
Mhm.
You know, they might have liked it over there and decided they didn't want to come back right away, or you
Well,
know.
in this particular reading, there were two that I spoke to. Two were gone and one stayed back. And one of them that I asked did like almost like the lock and key on the mouth, like I'm not telling you anything. And the other one said, basically same thing. I'm not going to tell you anything because then I won't get to go again. Like they enjoyed whatever happened.
Yeah.
And I keep saying, I was like blown away. Like, what are you talking about? But
Well, I tend to think that you know, maybe these cats were over in what we would call Shangri-La. You know, what it's possible that that's where they were. Who wouldn't want to be able to go back there? And you know, we are not supposed to know about all of this stuff on the level that, I mean, if I was the Jinn, I wouldn't want humans to know how to get there or where I am either, because we would hunt them. We would
Right.
not
Yeah.
be, I would like to think we would be kind, but I know we, you know, as a race, we wouldn't. So,
Right.
you know, I can't really blame them. Keep it a secret.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That is
Really
really interesting.
interesting.
We were all kind of blown away with that. Like, what? We never
Well,
heard
we
of that.
were,
So we kind of dove into it like, oh my God, the Jinn. And
Yeah.
it's
well, go
J-I-N?
ahead.
Is it
J-I-N or J-I-N-N.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, the thing is, like, when people make deals with them or communicate with them or that kind of thing, I always try to remind people that they don't think like we do, because they're not of the same race. They're not of the same species, I should say. So, you know, you have to be careful. I mean, you might say something and think it means one thing, and then there's all these loopholes, and they're like, oh no, this is what you said. So,
so
you know,
very similar to our discussion about fairies and fae.
yes,
Yes.
very similar, because
Yeah.
they don't think like we do. So you have to be careful. And some of them, not all of them are nice. Some of them are, you know, like, oh, you know, we'll just mess with this one a little bit. And
So you say all of them aren't nice, and I totally get that. And you say some are mischievous, some aren't. Do any of them have ill intent? Like, think of it as like evil spirits, or is it just,
I mean, I'm sure some of them do. If you
Okay.
think about, you know, like we have serial killers, they have their versions of things like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because they have free will.
Right. Huh.
So yeah, I mean, they're culturally, they've been very significant for us. I mean, they're in the Arabian Nights story, Aladdin. You hear about genies all the time, the three wishes, that kind of thing. But they're often, you know, put in with the genies kind of thing. I don't know about finding them hidden in a lamp or anything like that, but I know that they have stronger abilities than we do. They're more aware of it. They have no reason not to be. I sometimes wonder if the shadow people that people see are jinn and not shadow people. You know, who's to say?
Interesting. Yeah.
They take on, like I said, they're shapeshifters. They can take on whatever shape, you know. And what would you ask them if you met one? I'd love to be like,
no,
what
like,
is your
where do you
homeland?
even start?
Where
Right.
do you, exactly, where do you even start? Like,
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
I'm actually a little like, I don't even know what questions to ask you about them. You know what I mean? It's
Other than that, but then yes, we would never like, okay, because we want to know as humans, where did the cats go? What did they do?
Right.
Where did they
Right.
take them? Do you know?
well, and you wonder if the cats can see them all the time. You know how like I don't currently have a cat, but up until like 2 months ago, I've always had cats. And they're always looking at things that it's like, what do you see that
Yeah.
we don't see? Because
Yeah.
you're
Right.
seeing something.
Right.
Right.
You're intently watching something that my eyes can't perceive.
Mhm.
Right.
So
I
Yeah.
think that's
So
true.
let me ask the question. So, you said Egyptian. Ginger, you had said Egyptian. Is it, and Jen, maybe I missed this part, but is it only that part of the world, or is it only a certain religion, or is it, you know, like the fairies and the fae we associate with Celtic? Is the jinn only associated with that, with like Muslim or
Middle Eastern, I would
Middle
say Middle
Eastern?
Eastern folklore, you know, Arabian, Islamic. It's
Yeah.
more that than
Got
you
it.
don't really hear about them that much in Christian
Right.
folklore or pagan folklore. Maybe there's other names for it. I know the
Right.
jinn is mentioned in the Christian Bible, but don't ask me which part. Because I remember looking it up, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's just very briefly mentioned, and that's it. There's
So it
no
is interesting. It makes you believe that each one of either different regions or different religions or whatever has something
sort of like
this.
dragons, right? Like every part of the world has their own version of dragons.
Right.
So it's sort of like the same idea
Yeah.
in that everybody has a version of it, but
Right.
it's just
Right.
what you call it.
Interesting.
I know.
it
Really
is.
think
It's,
it's
cool.
it's super
fascinating.
interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
what it brought up, I think, for us after that reading, when I reached out to Kathy and Geri, was if you have a lost animal, are they really lost? You know, it just shifted things for me. Like I've never had any knowledge of that. So are there things that are going on with animals that we don't know, that we're not told, that we're not privy to? You know, I mean, it just,
That's true, because they did that thing, the lock
Yeah.
and key, like they don't want to tell you.
yeah,
I
So
think 1000% there's a lot about animals that we don't know. What they
Yeah.
can perceive, what they see, what I mean, for the longest time people believed they didn't have feelings, for goodness
Right.
sake. So,
right,
you know,
Right.
I think there's so much. I mean, and we always assume, you know, that when we see an animal reacting to something or seeing something or playing with something, we always assume it's a spirit, but that's not necessarily,
yeah.
Right.
you know, we're always
Right.
like, oh, that might be
It-
my grandfather, or that might be, and then mediums will be like, well, I don't know who it is. I can't connect. It's not that you can't connect, it's that it's not who you're trying to connect with.
Right.
Right.
So
Isn't it, it kind of makes you like I always say this, and it's not like I'm saying I want to pass, but you know, when you pass, you're going to get all those answers. Do you know what I mean? Like you're going to
I
get,
know.
you know,
Yes.
you're going to get all those answers. And
Yeah.
I feel like it really makes us like, oh my God, there's one more thing we don't understand. Do you know what I mean? Or one more thing, you know? And so on the one hand, you could, it makes you, it's almost frustrating, but then on the other, it can open you up even more
right.
to be like, sweet, let me know what you know,
Well, I often think that when we
whatever, I
get
guess.
wherever it is we go, that we won't care. Like we won't
Right.
need to know all this stuff. And I'm like, I hope before I forget that I need to know, that I'll get to know. And then if that
Right.
makes sense. And then that
Exactly.
can, you know, that I don't care part can all go away. But just, you know, maybe I was a cat in a previous life. I don't know. I'm just very
Right.
curious about it.
Yeah.
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 Exactly.
That's super
So
cool.
you think that, like like Geri had brought up earlier, what we talked about with the fae and fairies and now the jinn, that there may be other, like, are they, I guess it's just opinion, we'll never know, I guess, but are those beings all the same kind of being? It's just a cultural name or a cultural?
Yeah, that's kind of what I like. Is it the same being? Because they're also similar.
They're
Is it
similar.
the- you know, is it the
That's why they
same,
hide from us.
Yeah.
the same being, but just depicted in a different way based on a region or a religion or.
I don't think so, only because the Jinn are actual made of like smoke,
That's right. You said this.
you
Okay.
know, and the Fae are not, from what I understand.
Yes,
The
okay.
Fae have more human form,
Mm.
even though we don't get to see them. But the Jinn are very you know, I think they're in different realms. I believe in the metaverse completely. So
Yeah.
you know, these are just the ones we know about. Can you imagine the ones
Right.
we
I
don't?
know. I
Right?
know. Well,
So
you mentioned something, Jen, that I don't think we've talked about either, and that's shadow people. So
Mhm.
could you give a description or talk?
Um, well, you know, the shadow people are just that, they're shadows that I think coexist with us
In this realm.
in this realm.
But are they shadows of
People?
us? Shadows of.
I think they are. I have you ever seen one? Have you ever seen?
That's why I was going to ask you, because this just happened recently. At the end of the winter, I was watching TV with my daughter and my grandson, and all the lights were out. So we just had the TV light. And I just happened to look down the hall. It's my kitchen, my front door, and then my kitchen. And I saw a shadow person walk out of my kitchen and down towards my bathroom. There's no out, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it did not unnerve me. I didn't feel afraid. Nothing. It was like, oh, I've never seen that before. And I felt like it was male. I don't know why. And then it was gone.
I've had it happen as well. And
Yeah.
honestly, the past couple of weeks, I've had it happen multiple times.
Really?
The past couple of weeks where I'm like, what was that? Who was
It
that?
does feel like there's a lot going on right now.
Right.
Do you
Yeah.
agree with that, Jen?
Yeah, but I think I
Just
honestly feel like dark, evil or bad, or at the risk of sounding dramatic, I think it's fighting for its place in the world right now. And I think that the higher vibrational beings, mid to higher vibrational beings, are really fighting back so that at the very least a balance is maintained. But it's
Right.
really
But
with
it
all of
feels
the, it definitely feels like there's a major battle happening.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Major shift, and you know, because we do the work we do are on the higher vibrational side, and so we're going to see these things more and more. I really believe this. And so the shadow people, I think they coexist with us. I think I don't know a lot about them other than I see them. I'll never forget the first time I saw one. I was in when I had my center, I was in there and it was like 12:30 at night, and I saw one and I said, "Oh." And he, I assume it's a male, was standing there looking at me, waiting for me to notice him. And when I saw him, then he took off. He looked at me. It's like, you know, when someone leans around the corner and they're
Yep.
looking at you, that's what he was doing. He was leaning over, looking at, waiting for me to notice him. And I thought, I think this is his time to use this space. So I'm going to leave. That was the feeling I got. And
Yeah.
I just said, okay, bye.
Yeah, yeah, you wonder if it was almost like, can she see me, or can I come in and do my thing while she's still here type thing?
Yeah.
And when he realized you could see him.
I felt like his message was very clear. This is my time for this space. And so you should go. So I did. Said, see you later.
Peace out.
Peace out. Yep. I mean, it's all you. You do what you got to do. And I went in the next day and cleansed a lot. A lot of sage and Palo Santo was burned that day. But so I think that they are sort of with us, but they don't necessarily want to interact with us unless we're in their way. That's what I feel like. I think that, I don't know if they were spirits and they got stuck here. I don't know about any of that, but I know that I've seen them, and sometimes I feel nothing, and sometimes I'm like, okay, they just need their space.
Yeah. I almost felt like, and this didn't actually happen, but I almost felt like the energy was like hey, like I'm passing through. And that's exactly
Yeah.
what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I never
definitely
feel like
be.
I haven't felt like, you know, hey, can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me?
Yeah.
It
Right.
just felt like mine have just been, like you said, like, you know, oop, my bad, passing through. Sorry,
Right.
in your house,
Right.
you know, kind of a thing.
Some
You
people
know?
call them watchers. I don't know if you've ever heard of
Mhm.
that term. I've heard shadow people be called watchers before. I mean, and maybe that's the case. Maybe some of them are, that's their job. They're watching us and making sure we're not, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot more we could do that would be terrible. But, maybe the hat man, I mean, with the watcher thing, I mean, I believe that might be a shadow person. Some people have called the police and said there was an intruder, and it turns out that no, you're just sharing your home.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And shadow people are not like, I don't think that they're like, spirits you can cleanse and you can help them get out of your space. I don't know that you can do that with shadow people, but I think as long as you be respectful, they're respectful back. I've never heard of any of them hurting anybody or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah, I've never
Um,
felt negative from it.
yeah,
I've never
yeah,
felt like, oh my God, or anything like
right.
that. I've
Have
just been,
you ever seen any like verified, not toyed with like cameras that have picked up shadow people? You know how like everybody has cameras now?
Right.
Like in their houses, outside their houses. Like I wonder if there's ever like a verified, like this isn't a doctored video or photograph or something.
So my take on that is, unless I'm there and I see it also, I don't know any other way that I could 100% verify
That
right.
it was real.
any type of
Okay.
film or picture or anything like that. Only because first of all, I don't know anything about the technical how
Yeah.
to around that kind of thing. And then second of all, I mean, how do you know, especially in the digital age? I could
Right.
see when it was actual film,
Mhm.
Right.
for those youngins that weren't there for those times. But
When we used to have to
Film.
drive up to the photomat booth and drop off
right,
all
right.
and wait
Or
2 weeks for the
even before
mail.
the booths, when you just dropped it off at the drugstore or whatever,
Right.
and then you'd wait like a
Yes.
month to get your pictures back.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Oh
Those
my
were the good
God.
old days.
That's funny.
Oh,
Really
that's so interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. How would you tell?
Yeah.
There was a
I
long
don't
time,
know.
there was a story about a spirit in Three Men and a Baby. And when you would look at a certain part, when you would move, when
I
the
think I
characters
remember
moved,
that. Yeah.
yeah, and it ended up, for the longest time people believed it, and it ended up coming out that the whole thing was a hoax. So,
Yeah.
I mean, how can you tell? How do you know,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
Unless you see
You know,
it.
right. I mean, I've been present where I've seen things happen. I've seen where I have on film this girl, a bunch of us were in a house, and it was very, very active, this house, and her hair is like moving, like
Mm.
little pieces of her hair taken, and then you hear one of the girls go, something just moved your hair, and we're all like, so that kind of thing, if you're there, right?
Yeah.
But other than that, how would you
Well,
know?
that reminds me, because I know my brother did a tour with you for a house somewhere out on Route 2 or something.
That
And
haunted mansion in South Gardner,
yes,
yes, K. Pierce Mansion.
and he was telling me that one of the women afterwards sent your group an audio. She got a new phone and had no idea how to work it. Somehow it captured the audio.
Yeah,
And you could hear like wild animals. Not that you heard that in the house, but on the video, I mean, on the audio,
yeah.
it was like you could hear, like it was like being in the jungle. And
Wow.
it was just a house, right? I mean, haunted
Yeah,
house.
big haunted mansion.
Neat.
Very haunted mansion, actually. But when my son was 2, I brought him in there for the first time. They had sold the house, and there was such interest in this house that they decided to just have an open house and let people come in and look after it was sold. And he couldn't go past the front entryway.
Oh, wow.
Get me out of here. Oh,
Really?
so disappointed. I was so disappointed. I was like, come on.
Man up.
Suck it up.
Look around.
It's like, I'm 2, you better listen to me. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
because
the
they are
meltdowns.
so sensitive.
Well, that and the meltdown of a 2-year-old is just something I don't think
Yes.
anybody wants to participate in.
Right.
So talk about an amazing segue to what we were.
I know, I was just gonna say,
Go
right.
ahead, Kath, yeah.
The other thing we were gonna talk about is like generational, abilities, basically.
Oh.
And yeah, it's, art. I mean, I think my belief is that we're all, and I think it's pretty widespread belief that we're all born open and intuitive, and it
Mhm.
gets, shut down in us as we go through life and society and cultural norms and all of that.
Right.
So
But-
then the question is, because, okay, so we're, intuitives, mediums, etc. My grandmother was a transcendental medium.
Mhm.
And so then I have this, okay?
Mhm.
So like Kathy said, okay, we all kind of are born to it, but then it gets shut down. So is it that, like, people always say like, oh, you have such a gift. Is it a gift, or is it a muscle that we've learned to rework and not let society shut it down? Or is it that it's stronger because of the ancestral thing? Because seriously, Kathy, your son is pretty intuitive, right? Ginger, your grandson, very intuitive and empathic. Obviously, Jen, your son's going at 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
And
what
my brother's a medium too.
your brother's a medium. So
Mhm.
what do we think it is? Is it that there is a gift? Is it that maybe it's just stronger in us because of the ancestral thing? Or is it that we pass down that I don't give a crap about what you say society thing? Do you know what I'm saying?
I
That
do.
makes
I
sense the way I'm trying to say that.
I think the gift is our awareness of our other abilities. That's what I think
Yes.
it is. I do believe everybody's born with it. Excuse me. I think some people call it communing with God. Some people call it a hunch. Police officers, you always hear about their gut instinct or their hunch, mother's intuition,
Right.
the other thing, right? So I think everybody has something, or has this. It's just our gift is our awareness of it. And just like anybody else, some of your senses are stronger than others, right?
And you can work on them.
and you
even,
can work on it. Right.
We're all middle-aged. So
Right.
yeah, you can, it's, yeah. Do you mind, how old is your son now, Jen?
He's 27.
Okay. So is he still open and
Oh yes. Oh yes,
yeah.
very much so. And he's actually teaching tea leaf reading, I think, this
Oh,
week,
that's
this
cool.
coming
Oh,
weekend or something.
fantastic.
So yeah, he's very, very aware. So I have 2 nephews, biological nephews. Our family's huge, but because we collect people, but biologically, 2 of my nephews, they both have gifts. My sisters both do, although they're going to kill me for saying that out loud. So yeah, it does run in the family. And I found this picture. It's not a meme, but it's a picture, whatever, online. And it said, in order to be born, you needed 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great grandparents,
I saw
16
that.
second great grandparents, which I don't know what a second great grandparent, why that doesn't go to 3, but whatever. It ends at, you needed a total of 4,094 ancestors over the last 400 years for you to be here. So that's a lot of people with a lot of capabilities with, DNA is DNA. And I
Right.
think that there's things that are shared through DNA, good and not, that we inherit, that we can either develop, as you said, Kathy, like you can run, muscle memory or not, right? There are
Yeah.
things that you notice in families, for example, just even physical things. Like my son puts his hand up where the cowlick is on people's head, and he likes to play with the hair up there. And so I noticed I have an uncle, a paternal uncle, who does the same thing. And I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Just one of those things that you notice that You know, my family, we're all talkers. That runs through my dad's family. Actually, it runs through both families.
Mm. Yeah.
So
So
it is like anything else,
Like anything else, exactly.
you know, like the way
Exactly.
you laugh or the way you
Way you
pull your
walk, the
ear or
way you
something
eat.
all the time, like the
Right.
pellet thing, you know.
Right, right. I mean, and if you
Well,
think about it, we're coming from a previous generation where this sort of belief system, or this, you know, whatever you want to call it, was really shut down
right.
by different religions. And it isn't just
Yeah.
one religion, it's a whole bunch of them. It was
Multiple.
shut down. It wasn't okay to do this. So even if you were very strong in your gifts, you had to keep that very, very secret for the last, you know, few hundred years or more. Really,
Mhm.
you know.
I know, because they do, like, mainstream media talks about intuition. And it's not just the Sci-Fi Channel. Back when I was a young adult and my daughter was born, I was fascinated with, Crossing Over with John Edward was on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Right.
Even when it's like it's very mainstream now. And even I was watching a news program and they were talking about evolving your soul. And it's like
Yeah.
that wouldn't have been discussed 20,
Right,
30 years ago.
right.
And
So
I remember, sorry, Kathy, I think it was sometime last year, Rob Lowe
Mhm.
did it was a documentary or something like that about remote viewing.
Oh, interesting.
And
Yeah.
it was really cool. He did this series, and it was series of, like, one of them was like looking for Bigfoot, one of them was, whatever. And he and his sons did this, and they did this remote viewing, and they talked about how the military has used remote viewing for years
Yeah.
and years and years.
Like back in the 60s, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
50s,
Even
60s.
further back,
even further back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was a big thing during World War I and World War II, where they had, you know, they
Yeah.
would study it, and the CIA has released thousands of documents about their programs with remote viewing. And you know, so all of these things that we see in Hollywood or on TV or what have you, they all come from somewhere. They're all someone's idea from
Right.
somewhere. I remember watching cartoons and seeing it snow in Hawaii and California in the cartoon and being like, oh, well, that'll never happen. Well, didn't it just snow in Southern California like not that long ago? So I mean, the all of these ideas come from somewhere, and they have to be presented as sci-fi in order to be
Right.
sort of leaked out. So sometimes fiction isn't really fiction. It's just presented that way because it
Right.
plants a seed. So you can become a little more.
Well, and what'll be so interesting as the generations go on, because people are so much more intuitive now and more open talking about them being intuitive, that then they have children and they don't shut their children's intuition
Right.
down like ours was shut down, like with your son. And with my kids, although I mean, I did kind of shut my kids' intuition down more than I wish. Like, I wish I had fostered it more to let it flourish.
But
But it
hindsight's always 2020. I
I
mean,
know.
you were
Yeah.
doing what
And I
you
think
knew.
it's
Yes.
like, because I don't have kids, but my nieces and nephews know what I do.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think it's great that they and other friends' children know what I do.
Mhm.
And so I think it's great that they see a, normal person. I don't know if you
Mhm.
call me normal or not, but like a normal person doing the things that we do and being fine and living a happy life, etc. Do you know what I mean? And nobody beating me up or anything. Now, granted, I'm old, but nobody's gonna beat me up now. But you know what I mean?
Well, you're not wearing a turban. So.
Exactly. I'm not, wearing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Or
you're not
maybe
really a target, right? But if you were, if you were, you know, you can. I've run into it where people have been not so nice and
Mhm.
what have you. When I had my center in Gardner, I had a woman that would stand across the street in her linen stockings and her long skirt with her sign about Jesus and the rain.
And how you're basically the devil, right? You're
it was interesting because her thing was what did her sign say? It was something about Jesus is the only way or something like that. So, and people were, and she was across the street, which is where you have to be when you picket. And I know that because I tried to picket my bank once. So, yeah. So
Geri might join you on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be there with you.
I'll tell you, there is a way to get their attention, right? So, I mean, I remember it was cold and raining, and I brought her a cup of tea because I felt bad because it was cold and raining, but she didn't.
She wasn't gonna drink that witch's brew. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, that's okay because, you still offer kindness as much as you can in the face of that sort of energy. You can't go wrong, I mean, you can correct people and what have you, but people will run into it. And that's why, that old, don't talk about politics and religion and that sort of thing. And this is why that's more about self-preservation than anything else.
Yeah.
People are people, and they think that, and what I learned in my psychology class is when someone people have different brain structures. So if you're a right-wing Republican through and through, or you're a liberal Democrat through and through, right? You cannot change each other's mind. Your brain structures are physically different.
Yeah.
That's why. And that's why people can't that coexist. I mean, that's beautiful. That's ideal, but I don't know that can ever happen in the world as it is today.
Well,
It's
with the real
interesting.
extremes, right? Yeah.
With the real extremes, but it is interesting because every now and then I've found in my life, every now and then I've found a conversation that, wow, that was a great conversation, because neither of us were trying to change the other's minds.
Love those.
We were just, this is what I feel, this is my opinion, this is what I believe. What about you? This is what I feel, this is what I believe, this is whatever. And then you could go, okay, well, I see that part doesn't resonate with me, but I get that. Do you know what I mean? Every now and then, certainly with over the last several years, no. It feels like things are so heavily divided, and so, your way or my way. Or what are they, my way or the wrong way. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that
I know what you're saying. Yeah, we know what you're saying.
Other people think or whatever. But every now and then, if you can, because that's what, and I think this goes, and I know we're totally off topic here, but I think this is all fear-based.
It is.
Because I need you to believe exactly what I believe, so I know that I'm believing the right thing, and I can be like, oh, okay.
Or I need you to submit to what I believe because I'm correct, and you not following me endangers me and the people around me.
Right, and there's that fear,
you're
not following me.
Yeah. And
so
this is also a generational thing. This is a taught thing. This fear and this sort of thing. It's taught, and it can become ingrained in who you are, and then passed down through the generations until somebody decides to break the cycle, whatever cycle that is, whatever angle you're coming from, whatever your belief system is. Right. So, I mean, a lot of things are generational, and as a species, we really don't learn very well. If you look back over our history, we
just keep repeating it.
Right. How many empires have fallen because they've imploded?
Right.
Well, and I think with social media, the way it is too, I mean, if we always joke about, talking, well, I'm going to go fishing. I need a new fishing rod. Next thing you know, you see ads coming up and everything, articles. And I think, if you believe more to the right or more to the left, that's all you see. That's what comes up for you. So it just reinforces what you already believe, and it makes you feel okay. I'm in the know. I am right, because look, all this stuff keeps coming up. It's just point.
And it's so in your face, and it's so weird because it doesn't. And I always say this. I personally don't know what the truth is anymore. What's the truth? What is the truth? It's almost like you don't know it. So you have to find, for me, over the past several years, I'm like, I just need to find my own truth. So for me, that's like looking at a couple different things and like, okay, I'm taking in this data in, and this feels like the truth for me. Do you know what I mean? Because you can't find the truth. It was interesting. We had a rough couple of days here on the island in North Carolina, and there was a plane took off from our little regional airport, and it landed in like, he was not even as soon as he got in the air, he was like, uh-oh, engine trouble, and said he wanted to try to turn around, but he didn't make it, and he landed in somebody's house. And you go on, you know, and that's the other thing, so many people get their news from social media, which is one of the most terrifying things I've ever heard of in my life. But I have a news app that's local, and it'll say da da da, you know, and so even that, there were 3 different things about this. You know, did somebody die? Did nobody die? How many were on the plane? Who got out? Who, you know, it was like, I read something, my husband came home last night and said, oh, it was this, and I said, no, it was this, and he goes, no, it was this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because he read something completely different, and I'm like, oh my God. And in a sense, that's terrifying to me, because what is the truth? But then in another sense, I think because I've been able to just say, okay, I'm going to do my own research, and I'm going to find my own truth, which is what I keep saying, my own truth, because you may do the same research and come, do you know what I mean? I know we're so off topic, but remember when, and I say this all the time, remember when, and I hate to bring up, like, go dark or whatever, but remember when JFK was shot, okay? Walter Cronkite was on TV, and no, I was not watching this. I was a child. Was it 64 or 63?
63.
63. I wasn't born, but I remember looking at, when you see like old documentaries and you look back at the thing, he would not say it because they needed to get absolute confirmation. Do you know what I mean? And he's saying, we're waiting, and he's waiting for a phone call. He's waiting for whatever. And then finally he gets this call, and he takes his glasses off because he's visibly emotional, and he says it. Okay. Now it's who gets there first. And it doesn't even matter what's real.
It doesn't, because it's about money. It's all about money.
Who gets there first? You know, you can look at you know, again, I hate to go dark, but you can look at well, let's make something up instead of going dark. You know, people broke into this car dealership and they sold this many cars. I can go to different channels, and one says 3, one says 15, one says 25, one says 1, one says none. Do you know what I mean? Because they just throw it out there before getting any facts.
To your point, during COVID, what we learned is the misinformation that was spread could actually digitally be traced back to 12 specific people who were making a lot of money off of this misinformation. And so now the problem is, how do you find real information?
Right.
And how do you verify it? I had someone come into a shop and say to me, and I don't even know how this came up, I don't remember, but he informed me that Michelle Obama is a man who used to be Michael, and all of Victoria's Secret models were men, and that there was proof of this. And I just didn't know what I didn't know what to say to him.
Yeah, you don't know how to respond, right?
And I said, well, I did say, are you serious? You really believe this? You know, which was not the right thing to say. But I was dumbfounded. I was absolutely dumbfounded because of his proof, you know, and I'm using air quotes.
Yeah.
Because you can put anything out there and someone can take it as their absolute truth.
Right.
You know, so how do you educate yourself?
Do you remember that? It was a couple of years ago. It was, I don't even know what the commercial was for, but it's a chick and she's with this guy that's like big and kind of bulky and not who we would call an attractive. And
Bonjour, that one.
Yes, he
Yes.
said, oh, this is my boyfriend so-and-so, he's a French supermodel.
Yeah.
Bonjour. Like,
He
because she
looks like
found
a
him on the internet or so, or do you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, so in other words, any, because and I say that to people sometimes, you do know that anyone can put up a website, right? Like anyone.
Right.
And they can write anything they want, right? You know, like, so
And
yeah,
anyone can edit Wikipedia, and
anyone can.
anyone can, I mean, so
I
really,
did try to edit Wikipedia once, and I I jokingly like I used to
You
I
can
used to
edit someone else's Wikipedia page?
you can try.
you can
I
submit
did
the
get
edits.
fact checked and it got taken down, and I did it as a joke because so my son is on the spectrum, and he was diagnosed, he was diagnosed, and so he had a diagnosis, and it used to be when he was a young kid like a big thing for him. And so my thing was always, everybody has something. And
Right.
he's like, well, my sister doesn't. And I was like, yes, she does. She has, and I can't remember what I called it, but basically she was just a nag. She was like, and I called it like persistent personality something. And I tried to put it into Wikipedia. They
That's
wouldn't.
awesome.
It was up for like 5 minutes, and then it got taken down.
Oh,
But
so
That's funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, we did get way off topic.
You did, but it was still interesting. So
I think it is so interesting I think it will be so interesting to see what happens as, as we change as a society and more people are open, and it's not, the witches or the crazy people that are reading palms or whatever, and that those people are raising their children to be more open. And it does give me hope for,
and maybe that's one of the things that's gonna instill change or push change or whatever, is when people stop going outside to find their truth.
right.
And what is my intuition telling me? What is my gut telling me? What is, and maybe that's the direction we're going, because there's more and more and more and more of us out there, and more and more of us out there that are empathic or intuitive or whatever, that are just saying, yeah, that thing I just watched doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not gonna look at these people anymore. Or this whole social media thing, and I've gotten there big time. This whole social media thing, when I'm on my social media, I get German short hair pointers all over the place. Just look at puppies. Do you know what I mean? Or birds that I send to Ginger.
I get talking birds.
Swearing birds. Yeah.
Swearing birds, my
birds.
favorite.
Yeah, that's Ginger's thing. So maybe that is, the more of us that keep either passing it down to children or passing it around, because again, no children, to the youngsters or whatever around us, that we can start to empower people more to like, hey, what feels right to you?
Well, the key would be to get people off of
Correct.
social media and all. I mean, we're zombifying our nation, our world with this whole thing, and people are losing, unfortunately. I think people who are on social media all the time are losing their humanity, the ability to be kind, the ability to have interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
To be
Because
social.
there is that thing that everybody's safe behind a keyboard.
Right.
People
And they're
worry.
going to say something that they would never say to anybody's face behind a
I
keyboard.
always recommend the book. It's called The Velveteen Rabbit, the Principles of the Velveteen Rabbit, something like that. But in the book, she says, basically that we live in the United States of Generica, and instant gratification is confused for happiness. And you really don't get much more instant gratification than social media, if you think about it. And so there's no ability to have patience. The creativity is being lost. All these things are being lost. And that's not what I want to pass down to generations. That's not what I want my future to look like. I don't want to be needing care and having somebody have to Google it first before
Right.
before they help me or what have you. I mean, and I know that's an extreme example, but that book is a really great book, and it can help people to really find their way back to themselves and remember who they are. And that's important, especially if you want to be more aware of your gifts, or you want to study them, or you want to help them grow. You're not going to do that if your nose is stuck in a phone or a tablet all
Yeah, it's
day.
I have
interesting.
even found that for myself. I mean, literally yesterday, as I was scrolling through, should have been getting other things done, and I'm looking at videos, and I heard in my head a voice say, "Put your phone down. It's rotting your brain."
Brain.
Yep.
You know, you
And
see these things, and again on social media, but it feels like some of us older people are starting to, and it's funny because I'm seeing them all over the place, are starting to, like, you guys, this is what people are doing now, and it's all the kids going like this, and then the picture of what we were doing, how you figured out where everybody was, because there was 10 bikes laying on their side in somebody's front yard. Do you know what I mean? How you knew when to come home, when the street lights came,
Right, yeah.
drinking, there's a one big thing, like supposedly it's like a Gen Z person or something like that. Like, you drank out of a hose, but you didn't have a sink. It's like a mom that was like, we were badass, we were whatever.
Right,
because
right.
It was true. We were like gone from in the summer. Are you kidding me? You're gone from in the morning until nobody
Off having adventures.
Nobody had
Right.
lunch for you. Did we ever stop and eat lunch? No.
no,
Unless you went to the general store and bought a popsicle or something. Do you know what I mean?
Or somebody's mother was making sandwiches and you all
Yes.
got one.
And you
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
exactly. But
Yeah.
man, none of that. And I think we are different than kids.
Right.
Well,
today.
there's a comedian, because yesterday when I was flipping through before I heard that message, there was a comedian that was talking about 30 years from now, we're going to have a generation of terrible old people.
Oh God,
And
yes.
so today, if
And
you
a
ask your
deficit of
grandmother,
orthopedic
grandmother's
surgery.
going through
Yeah.
pictures, and you say, and the grandmother says, "Oh, this is a picture of your grandfather next to Charles Lindbergh before his famous trip." And if 30 years from now, you talk to a grandmother, they're going to be saying, "What's this picture, Grandma? Oh, this was a nice breakfast that I made myself." Or there was a pair of shoes. I tried these 3 pair of shoes on. I thought I might like, it's like it's just gonna be a horrible generation of old
People
people.
are going to look through my camera roll and be like, why are there all these labels? And it's because when I'm at a store and I can't read, I take a picture of it and then blow it up so that I can read the fine print on the label.
I've been
Mine are
guilty of
just
that
all
before.
dogs and cats and horses. That's it. There was another comedian, this female, and she said something about how, and I'm getting confused of Gen X and Y and Z and millennials. I have no idea. I know I'm at the end of a baby boomer, but barely. And so I don't know, but she was talking about one thing and how she goes, these guys don't know how to read a map. They don't know cursive.
They don't know how to drive a stick shift.
They don't know how to drive a stick shift. They don't know how to dial a rotary phone or like stuff like that. And they say, so she goes, and this was the punchline. She
I
says,
don't even know what a rotary phone
if
is.
they take over the world, it's going to be really easy to take it back.
Right.
because they can't. And there's jokes about that all the time. Like if you want to, something about write the directions in cursive and
Then
forget
they'll
it,
never
and
figure it out.
they'll never
Right.
figure it out.
No, that'll be our secret language. in the
That's
future.
right.
Exactly, our secret
No.
language. Once again, we got off topic, but
That's
anyway.
funny. Well,
We cannot help
yeah,
ourselves.
I know now that we're off topic, way off topic. So good luck naming this episode, Geri.
I'm like, huh.
You could call it
I
off
think the name of
topic.
the episode.
It's gonna be off topic. It is. It's gonna be, we start with Jin, shadow people, and then stuff.
Right. Yeah.
That works,
Oh.
actually.
Yes. Jen, thank you so much for coming on today and
Thanks for having me.
chatting with us. And yeah, and hopefully, I don't know, maybe people aren't even still here listening. But if you made it this far, you probably already know where to find us at thepsychicwives.com, on Facebook at The Psychic Wives, our YouTube channel. It's all The Psychic Wives, basically. So anyway, until next time.
Be well.
And be kind. Bye.
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 Bye.